I think that a lot of the times, even artists, when we become adults, we look to nature for inspiration. So when we're kids, when we love those kind of things, I think that in some sense, I don't know, maybe those artists are just kids that never really grew up all the way. So I'm just starting with introducing myself?
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Shannon Anderson, and I'm an instructor at the Montclair Art Museum. I teach mostly children's classes, but a variety of ages and materials, and I tend to teach studio art, so using mixed media and different materials together. Today we are going to make a tunnel book, which is a piece of artwork that is also a book, but it is pieces of paper made together that are cut to show different layers. So you end up with an image that has multiple parts, foreground, middle ground, and background. You could use any materials to do this, but today I'm going to use some watercolor and just some watercolor paper. But I have used other materials in the past, oil pastels, color pencils, whatever you feel like using. So I just have paper that is 5 by 7 because I think that that's a good size, and I'm going to start by drawing out my image. So I have some already done of my layers. They're a little stuck together. So now I'm just going to make the next layer, which I think is going to have some trees. I don't want to add anything that's too close to my edge here because sometimes parts of it are going to get covered up by the end binding of the paper. So now if I wanted to like skip ahead to the painting part, would that be good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, because I didn't want to have to draw it 5 times. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to go about painting it. Again, you could do this however you want, entirely up to you. I like watercolor, so I'm using watercolor. I have done this project with 6 to 8-year-olds. I have done this project with the next age level, which is like 9 to 12. It's just the amount of detail that I'm adding, or maybe the amount of steps is the thing that I might change. With the little guys, I might not use watercolor. This summer we did oil pastels, so that way we could kind of see it in real time and not have to wait for drying. I'm not the kind of person that feels like I need to be really exact when I'm painting, so I'm more of a loose, let it blend together a little bit kind of a person, but that's personal preference. I think, especially with the younger kids, we tend to think that hyperrealism is the goal. And that is not always the goal for most artists, if not, the majority of artists. A lot of the time we feel like, real life does look like that. We've seen it, we don't need to see it again. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes taking something and adding less detail is more fun and enjoyable than having something that is super detailed. All right. This is the part where I felt like maybe I should have painted another one ahead of time. I was like, yeah, it would be great if I have a couple of different ones. So this one has nothing cut out on it, so this is my very back layer. And it's the Van Black house, loosely. I'm trying to jump around a little as I'm painting so I don't have so much of it blending together. Otherwise, it might end up looking like a blob. I never knew what I wanted to be when I was little. I was 6, and we had to write a couple of sentences about what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I went home really stressed out. And my mom sat with me, and she was like, just pick something. Nobody will know. And I was like, but it won't be true. And someone in my art class, I was helping them out. And they were like, wow, you'd be a good art teacher. And that was it. I was like, yeah, that would be a great job for me. I think I would really enjoy that. But I think it's the best job in the world. I get to have fun every single day. Get to dance around my classroom and play music and make fun stuff. No, I was gonna say I could never have a desk job. I would be too bored. Sometimes when my kids are too self-sufficient, I'm like, do you need anything? I'm like, could you ask me a question even if you know what you're doing, just so I could be involved? I will say that this is a type of artwork that you could definitely like take it to your level. So if you wanted to be really in depth with this and sit and meticulously paint and cut each piece, you absolutely could. Okay, I'm gonna put this to dry.
Yeah.
So
Take a pause for a second.
Yeah.
Mark has to switch the battery.
Okay.
That was like a time problem.
Yes, because it needs to dry before I can do it.
Like the absolute perfect.
It's like, wait a minute.
All right.
All right, good to go
I
again?
think we're ready to go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So now that it's dried a little bit, I'm just going to cut it out. I could kind of cut a circle, and I could do that if I had an X-Acto knife. I'm probably just gonna cut this little piece apart so I could have a little bit more of my last piece showing. But if you had wanted to be really detailed about it, you could make it more of a tunnel and not have the pieces open at the top. Personal preference.
What is your stance on, like, I guess that's not to make it cliche, but like Bob Ross's happy little accidents? Like, what is your stance?
No, I am a happy little accident person. I feel like if you make a mistake, there's a zillion ways that we could go about fixing it. Sometimes taking a pair of scissors and cutting off the part you don't like is a really good way to fix a piece of artwork, even if it's not the way you intended it to be. All right, so I have my pieces all cut out, and then my last one is going to stay my solid piece to kind of help hold the whole thing up. So now I'm going to create the sides of my tunnel book. For that, I'm just going to use another piece of paper. You could use different paper if you wanted. I use watercolor paper again because I already had the pieces cut. And I'm going to fold it kind of in an accordion fold. I decided to make each of my zigzags here, so each little letter V 1 inch big. And I decided to measure it so that both of them would be even. And I'm going to make it 5 inches long, because I have 5 pieces of paper. So then in the end, I'll have the right number of folds. Now, since this is watercolor paper, it's a lot harder to fold. I'm just using some elbow grease. Okay. So now that I have my 2 accordion folded pieces and all of my pieces cut, I'm going to start to assemble it and glue it together. What's going to happen is each little tab, I'm just going to add a little glue and stick it on in each layer. And you could do any kind of imagery. It doesn't necessarily have to be a landscape, but a lot of the time the landscapes work out really well. Technically, I would say that this is bookmaking, which is one of my favorite kinds of art because a lot of people don't think of books as being an art form. I like to break that convention a little bit because bookmaking is a very unique kind of art. And speaking of this being a book, I could also add a cover if I wanted to. So adding a piece across the front and cutting it in half and folding it. And there, I have my tunnel book. Am I good? I did it?
I think we did it.
Yay! Yay!